We see it everywhere, don't we? I mean, in big public debates, definitely on social media.
Oh, absolutely. Echo chambers galore.
Yeah, and even just trying to solve problems at work, arguments built on, well, shaky ground.
Biases, steering things, or sometimes just not enough careful thought.
It really makes you wonder, how do we actually get past all that? How do we achieve, real fair-minded thinking that solves stuff?
That's a huge question. And it's exactly why we're doing this extended deep dive today. We're looking at a really foundational text that offers a path forward.
Which is the Miniature Guide to Critical Thinking Concepts and Tools by Richard Paul and Linda Elder.
Precisely. A compact but powerful guide.
And today, we're definitely going beyond just a simple summary. We want you to enjoy a bold new take on book coverage with this extended analysis.
Right. So more than just summarizing, which we will do too, we're examining how the authors build their argument, how they create influence, and basically how they earn your trust, or maybe lose it.
It's about giving you the tools to read with sharper insight, more discernment. Wondering if you should read this book. This should definitely help.
And it's great for aspiring writers, too, seeing how arguments get constructed.
Absolutely. And hey, if you find this analysis format useful, please let us know. Your feedback really does help us figure out what to cover next.
Definitely. And as we dig into this, just remember, you're listening to a unique two-host AI conversation. It's powered by Google's NotebookLM, designed for a deeper, more dynamic take on the book.
Okay, so let's set the stage. What is this guide actually trying to do?
At its heart, Paul and Elder are giving us the blueprint for rigorous thinking.
And the summary breaks down into roughly 3 key areas, right?
That's right. First, the elements of thought, sort of the basic building blocks for any reasoning.
Okay.
Then, the universal intellectual standards. Yeah. These are the benchmarks you use to judge how good that reasoning actually is.
Standards like clarity, accuracy, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And finally, they tackle the big obstacles, how to spot and dismantle the biases that trip us up. Specifically, egocentric and sociocentric thinking.
Got it. So elements, standards, and obstacles.
Now, to really get why this little guide has had such a massive impact, it's used everywhere, we should probably start with the author's credibility, their ethos.
Okay. How do they establish that?
Well, it's pretty immediate. Richard Paul and Linda Elder aren't just throwing out opinions. They're really respected figures in critical thinking education, leaders at the foundation for critical thinking.
So that background gives them instant authority. It's not just theory, it's based on actual teaching and practice.
Precisely. You trust the tool because you trust the experts who built it and have used it for years. They don't really need to spend pages convincing you they're qualified. Their reputation does that work.
And their tone reflects that.
Very much so. It's instructive, very direct, very methodical. It's designed to foster disciplined thinking, whether you're a student or a professional. No fluff.
But, does that directness ever feel maybe a bit dry or demanding for some readers?
That's a possibility. It's probably a calculated risk they took. Their goal isn't really to entertain with stories.
Right.
Their purpose seems crystal clear. Inform and empower. Give you practical tools, checklists, templates you can actually use to fix faulty thinking.
So the clarity of the mission itself becomes part of the persuasion.
Yeah, I think so. They're aiming high, trying to foster more critical societies, really, by helping individuals think more rigorously.
Okay, so that's the authority, the ethos. Let's get into the mechanics, then the logos, the logical structure. You said its persuasive power comes mainly from that.
Almost entirely, I'd say. It's built for practical utility. It skips any kind of narrative journey and just gives you the framework ready to use.
And how is it organized to do that?
It's modular. That's the key. It breaks critical thinking down into these distinct, manageable parts. It really demystifies the whole process.
Okay.
They start with the 8 fundamental elements of thought. And this is really the core framework they offer.
Right, let's unpack those a bit, because if you, listening, want to actually use this guide to analyze something, say an article or a proposal at work, what are these elements Paul and Elder say you should look for?
They basically give you a diagnostic toolkit. They argue any piece of reasoning can be broken down by looking at 8 things. First, its purpose. What's the goal?
Okay.
Then, the specific question at issue. What problem are we actually trying to solve?
Makes sense.
Third, the information. What data, facts, evidence are being used. Fourth, the underlying concepts, the main ideas or theories.
All right, halfway there.
Fifth, assumptions. This is a big one. What's being taken for granted. Sixth, inferences or interpretations, the conclusions being drawn.
Okay.
Seventh, implications. If this reasoning is correct, what follows? What are the consequences? And finally, number 8, the point of view. What perspective is shaping this reasoning?
Wow, okay. That's incredibly useful. It stops you from just reacting to the final conclusion someone presents.
Exactly.
It forces you to look under the hood. So if someone makes an argument, this guide trains you to ask, hold on, what are the hidden assumptions here?
Or, is the information being used actually relevant to the question at issue? It's like a checklist for deconstructing reasoning.
And the structure of the guide itself follows that logical process.
It mirrors the thinking process they advocate.
Hmm.
Logic and evidence are always front and center. The whole rhetorical strategy is this toolkit approach. They're not asking you to just learn a philosophy.
They're handing you the tools, the templates.
Right. Things you can integrate immediately.
And you mentioned repetition earlier. How does that fit in with their style? They use concise language, short sentences.
Yes, the style makes complex ideas accessible. But the repetition is strategic. It reinforces the other key part of their framework, the universal intellectual standards.
Ah, okay. So the elements are what you analyze, and the standards are how you judge the quality.
Exactly. They keep coming back to the need for clarity, accuracy, precision, relevance, depth, breadth, logic, and, importantly, fairness.
That constant reinforcement seems crucial. Because an idea could be, say, perfectly clear, you know exactly what's being said.
But it might be completely inaccurate.
Right. Or maybe it's accurate, but it just lacks the depth needed for a really complex issue.
That distinction is key. And it leads us straight into the ethical dimension of the book, which is surprisingly strong.
How so? You said there's minimal emotional appeal, minimal pathos.
Right. They avoid manipulation.
Yeah.
But they strongly motivate readers towards intellectual integrity. It's about ethical self-correction.
And this is where those biases come in. Egocentric and sociocentric thinking. This feels like where it gets personal for the reader. It demands some humility.
Absolutely. Egocentric bias, they explain, is that default human tendency to see everything through our own interests. We favor evidence that helps us rationalize away anything that doesn't. It's thinking focused on what's good for me.
We all do that to some extent.
And sociocentric bias is just the group version. Assuming our group's beliefs, norms, ways of doing things, whether it's our company, our culture, our online community, are just correct, superior even, often blinding us to other valid points.
So they frame these biases not just as like bad habits, but as actual barriers to finding the truth.
Precisely. By naming them so clearly, Paul and Elder are pushing us not just to think well, but to think about the impact of our reasoning, to cultivate intellectual empathy, fairness. That's their subtle ethical push.
That focus on reflection, on rational thought, that really resonates with what we try to do here too, which makes this a good spot for a mindful moment.
Good idea.
We actually feature deep dives and expanded analysis, much like this one over on our YouTube channel. You'll find AI book analyses, summaries, critiques, all aimed at sparking that kind of reflection and rational thinking.
So check that out if this kind of discussion is helpful. Now, back to the guide's effectiveness overall.
Yeah, how well does it achieve its goals?
I think undeniably well within its scope. It really succeeds in boiling down some complex philosophy of critical thinking into a very concise, very usable format.
It's logically consistent, coherent.
And the fact that it's so widely adopted speaks volumes. It works because its structure makes it immediately applicable. That modular design, the clear language, the sharp focus, it hits the target audience perfectly.
Which is who, mainly? Students. Professionals.
Both, really. Anyone who needs a quick, reliable reference for intellectual standards and self-correction.
So, wrapping this up, what's the takeaway for you, the listener?
I think the lasting value of Paul and Elder's framework is its clarity and, crucially, its transferability. The concepts aren't just abstract. The moment you start consciously distinguishing between, say, an assumption in an argument and its implications.
You've started using the tool. It becomes part of your thinking.
Exactly. The whole guide really champions rigor, accuracy, fairness.
Which leads to a final thought, maybe a challenge for everyone listening. Given the emphasis on clarity and rigor in this book, what's one core assumption you hold, maybe in your job, maybe just in your daily life, that really needs a critical look right now? Which of those elements of thought might be the weakest link in one of your common arguments or decisions? Could you apply one of Paul and Elder's templates to examine it?
That's the real application, isn't it? Taking these tools and turning them inward.
Well, that brings us to the end of this analysis. Thank you for tuning in.
Yes, thanks everyone. You can click the link on screen or in the description for the in-depth book summary, our notes, and links to purchase the guide. And please subscribe, share this with others.
And keep thinking rationally.
See the many genre-based book podcasts at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.